Next, vitamin C. Its chemical name is ascorbic acid. So commonly called anti-scurvy vitamin. So the main sources of this vitamin C are citrus fruits. Citrus fruits like lemon, orange, amla, etc. This vitamin C is useful for formation of collagen protein. It is useful for formation of collagen protein. It provides immunity. It is useful for wound healing. Deficiency. So deficiency of vitamin C causes scurvy, in which the immunity decreases, the bleeding occurs from the gums and loosening of the teeth. So these are the main symptoms of scurvy, and the wound healing delays. Next, let us discuss about the minerals. So these minerals, they are also required in very minute quantities. So they are also responsible for, they also act as the structural components of various organs, and they also act as cofactors for proper functioning of various enzymes. So these minerals, they are also required in small amounts, but they plays a vital role in the metabolism. That's why these minerals are also called as essential nutrients. So let us see some important minerals. Carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, these are called structural elements. These are called structural elements because these are the main components of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. And nitrogen. So this nitrogen is a component of DNA and RNA. It also involves in the formation, it is also a component of proteins. Phosphorus. It is useful for bone and teeth formation. So it is a component of energy currency, that is ATP. So this phosphorus is also a component of nitrogen bases, that is it is also a component of DNA and RNA. Potassium. Potassium is useful for nerve transmission, cellular permeability, the deficiency of potassium leads to paralysis. Next, sodium. The sodium is also useful for nerve transmission or nerve conduction. It is also essential for muscle contraction. Next, calcium. Calcium is a component of bone and teeth. So the calcium is useful for bone and teeth formation. This calcium is available in the form of calcium carbonate and calcium phosphates. The calcium is also a factor for blood clotting. The calcium is also useful for proper muscle contraction. And next, magnesium. So magnesium is useful for protein synthesis. It is useful for protein synthesis or protein formation. It also acts as cofactor for various enzymes. Next, sulfur. Sulfur. It is a component of cysteine and methionine amino acids. Methionine amino acids. It is also component of biotin vitamin. So that is vitamins B7. Next, chlorine. Chlorine is useful for maintaining homeostasis or equilibrium. It is also useful for formation of gastric juice. It is also useful for formation of gastric juice. It is present in the form of HCl. The deficiency of this chlorine leads to loss of appetite, and it may also leads to muscle cramps. Next, iron. It is a component of hemoglobin and myoglobin. It is useful for formation of RBCs and is also a component of cytochromes. And next, zinc. So zinc is useful for enzyme activation and it is useful for enzyme activation and carbon dioxide transportation. So the deficiency of zinc leads to anemia and also it leads to retarded growth and weak immunity and fertility. So that means zinc is also useful for development of the reproductive organs. And iodine. Iodine is useful for proper growth and metabolism of the thyroid gland. It is also useful for development of nervous system. So deficiency of iodine or inadequate amount of iodine leads to the enlargement of thyroid gland. So this condition we call as simple goiter. So the deficiency or inadequate amount of iodine causes simple goiter. Next, manganese. So this manganese is useful for development of skeletal system. And finally, chromium. Chromium is useful for uptake of glucose. These are some essential minerals. So these minerals are the inorganic elements. Minerals are the inorganic elements which are also necessary for proper metabolism. So most of these minerals, they act as cofactors for the activation of enzymes. So carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, these are called structural elements because they are the components of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Nitrogen, it is a component of nucleic acids like DNA and RNA. The nitrogen is also a component of proteins and amino acids. And phosphorus, it is a component of bone and teeth. It is useful for bone and teeth formation. It is also a main component of the energy currency, that is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. It is also a structural component of nucleic acids, DNA and RNA. And potassium, the potassium is useful for transmission of nerve impulses and is also useful for cellular permeability. So the deficiency may leads to paralysis. Sodium, so it is also useful for nerve conduction and it is also useful for muscle contraction. Calcium, it is a component of bone and teeth. It is also useful for bone and teeth formation. It is one of the factors for blood coagulation. So calcium is also useful for muscle contraction. Magnesium, it is useful for protein synthesis. Actually, the protein synthesis occurs on the surface of the ribosomes. So these ribosomes have two subunits, that is smaller subunit and larger subunit. Generally these subunits are free. At the time of protein synthesis, the subunits get united in the presence of these magnesium ions. And sulfur, it is a component of cysteine and methionine amino acids and is also a component of biotin vitamin. Chlorine, the chlorine maintains the homeostasis and it is also useful for formation of gastric juice, that is it is available in the form of HCl. Iron, it is the main structural component of hemoglobin and myoglobins. So the iron is also essential for the formation of RBCs and is also a component of cytochromes. Zinc, zinc is also useful for development of the gonads, that is reproductive organs, and zinc is useful for enzyme activation and is also useful for transportation of carbon dioxide, and it also acts as a cofactor for decarboxylase enzyme. Iodine, iodine is an essential mineral, so which is useful for proper growth and metabolism of the thyroid gland. Deficiency or inadequate amount of iodine causes enlargement of the thyroid gland. This condition is called as goiter, simple goiter. And manganese, so it is useful for development of the skeletal system. And chromium, it is useful for uptake of glucose. Thank you.